Hey everybody, I'm Andy Weinberg, and welcome to episode 88 of the David Uosikkinen in the Pocket podcast. And we're here, Dave and I, as always, at the beautiful Wildfire Radio Studios in Woodbury, New Jersey. But Dave, this is obviously different and exciting this week.
Oh, I'm thrilled.
Because for the first time in 15 months, 15 months since January 30th, 2020, we have in-studio guests.
How about that?
With us. Guests, plural.
Yeah,
In the studio with us.
Yeah.
We have the incredibly talented young singer-songwriter, Olivia Rubini is with us.
Thank you for having me.
And her father, who produced her album, Richie Rubini, you probably know him from the Caulfields and all the other musical projects he's done over the years, musician, producer, engineer. Very excited to have Richie here as well.
Good to be here.
Very cool.
And he's got this long portable keyboard with it's taking up half the, if you're not watching us on video right now, it's taking up half the desk.
Love it.
But Richie's going to play and Olivia's going to sing a couple tracks, and we're going to talk to her about her fantastic new album Silhouettes, which just came out a couple months ago. Dave, we usually have, and I can say this because we're old men as well. Yeah. We usually have old men on the show. I mean, it's just fact. We're
I'm sure some of our ex-podcast guests are going to love that.
No, they're all great. They're all great. But this is a music history show generally, and who knows the most history? But old people. So it's very nice to have a young, a youngster and a woman as well. We have mostly male guests, and we have a woman.
We're female light all the time, so it's really nice to have an amazing talent and have Olivia and of course Richie with us. So it's cool.
And when we say young, she's only 21 years old, but tomorrow she will be 22.
Woo-hoo.
So
happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Olivia. Happy birthday to you. Okay, let's do some biz. Excellent.
All right. So let's get to our sponsors so we can get to the conversation with Olivia. Yeah. And I also want to mention Taylor's with us as usual, a producer on the other side. He helped Richie set up the keyboard and is going to make sure everything sounds all right. So thank you, as always, to Taylor and Wildfire Radio for having us. And, of course, thank you to our sponsors, our great friend Eric Metz at Croker Percussion. That's crokerpercussion.com, CROAKER percussion.com. They have all kinds of really cool percussion instruments. And if you go on their website and you do a /ITP, you'll get a coupon for 5% off anything on the site or in the store.
The lovely shaker.
Dave's got one of the shakers you can get there. All kinds of cool stuff. They're dedicated to creating quality, handcrafted percussion instruments with superior sound quality and unmatched craftsmanship.
Terrific people.
Again, crokerpercussion.com or call Eric 215-669-8588. And we're also brought to you again this week by our great friends at the School of Rock Main Line in Berwyn, Pennsylvania. They take these young musicians and they teach them to basically to thrive as individual musicians and also in a group setting.
Yeah.
And some
standards are high too. I've watched like really young, 7 years old, kids that excel. And, I watched this little girl playing the guitar. She had this, I think it looked like a little Strat. And she's working on this Hendrix lick.
Oh, cool.
And it was just phenomenal. And great teachers. It's just a fantastic program.
When Dave says great teachers, he's not just talking about himself.
But
he is one of the great teachers they have over there.
That I teach there.
That Dave teaches drums. You got Wally Smith, and keyboards, and all the great people over there. So check them out on the web. It's schoolofrock.com, but then specifically look for the one in Mainline, Pennsylvania, in Berwyn. Yeah. You can also call them at 610-647-2900. Thanks again to our friends at School of Rock.
Right on.
All right, so as we were saying at the top of the show, we have in studio with us, first time since Adam Weiner from Low Cut Connie on January 30th, 2020. Wow. So first time in 15 months, we have with us the incredibly talented Olivia Rubini.
And beautiful. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
You have a live person.
And her dad, Richie with us here.
He's beautiful. He's beautiful too.
And Richie's beautiful too. Yeah. But
us bald guys have to stick together here.
Looking good.
Right.
So,
looking good.
Olivia, let's just we'll just jump right in, and we'll get into your music background and your history and everything. But you have an album out, and I know that's you're a young musician. You've been doing this for a long time. I guess about 6-7 years. You've been writing music, but to have an actual album complete and out where people can listen to it and your work is out there for the world, what does that feel like?
It's insane, because like you said, I've been doing it since I was like 15, 16, and it was always the best quality that we could do at that time and the best that it could be of like what I was as an artist at the time. But I didn't, you know, I wasn't a full artist, and I didn't really know what I wanted to kind of put out there, and I didn't have a great idea of what I wanted to sound like. So now that I'm a little bit older and have more identity, it's like having something that's a total cohesive body of work that I'm just like obsessed with is insane. And hearing people's responses to it is, it's like overwhelming. Yeah. It's awesome.
Is it a little nerve-wracking in any way, knowing now that your work's out there and people can judge it? And plus, it's a very personal album. I mean, these are songs about, as far as I know, about a former relationship of yours.
So you threw it out there, right?
I did. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm sure in some ways, I mean, look, that takes courage doing that on the other hand, but at the same time, it's probably cathartic and it makes you feel that you're able to, if you know, any kind of breakup, any kind of stuff like that, gives you a way to heal. Get things out there. It's a form of therapy in a lot of ways.
Oh,
right?
Totally. And I mean, I had a lot of like, I'm constantly just putting little ideas in my notes on my phone. So I might have gone back to something that was months or like years old, because I would just write down like an emotion or like a little thought, not even like solid lyrics or anything. Just, this is how I feel. Yeah. This is good. This is good content. Yeah. And so when I was actually writing stuff, I would go back in my notes and find stuff from ages ago, and I was like, oh, right, I did feel like this, and that's good material. Yeah. I'm going to hone in on that. Wow. Because it's like...
And good for you for having the wherewithal to put it down, you know, have it on your note. That's the cool thing about the phone, like putting your ideas
Did you
down.
keep a diary at all growing up as a teenager? Or?
Not really.
No?
Not really.
But the technology allowed you to kind of do that, right?
Yeah, and I think I didn't really know that was like the plan. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go back to this for sure. It just kind of happened that way because I was like...
Makes it even better.
I'd look through it and I'd be like, oh, that's cool, that's cool. Yeah. Well, not cool. Wasn't always great. But I was like, good content. I can make something out of that. I can make that artsy and lyrical or whatever. So it was an interesting process to write for every song, because there was definitely a different process for every song on the album. So I think that's a pretty cool aspect of it as well.
Yeah.
Right. There's a nice mix of emotion throughout. I mean, some songs are a little more upbeat, and some are you can kind of hear even if you can't relate specifically to your situation, you can kind of just hear the heartbreak come across. And I know that's kind of what you wanted from the album. You wanted it to be, you didn't want it to just be 10, oh my God, I want to cut my wrist songs.
Definitely didn't want that.
Right.
I wanted to have a little something for everybody, because, you know, one day you might be having like the sassy single girls club where you want to like party with your friends and be happy and, you know, loving life, and then the next day you might be in your feels a little bit and you might want to you know,
it must have been weird. I mean, because you got a family aspect to your production.
Yeah.
Your father's involved, so for like he's a great producer, because I know Richie's work, and but you're hearing these lyrics that are you know, that must have had you kind of sometimes.
He doesn't ask questions. He just lets it roll.
That's probably how he stays sane.
Yeah. Well, I just for me, is it believable when I hear out of anyone's artist that's singing a song in front? Is it believable? And are you selling me on it? And I would say, Libby, that's really good. If something like really struck home, I said, that's really strong. Or she showed me something and I'd say, that's really strong. Finish that. You know, or she might say, I've got this verse. And so again, it's about believability. Can you believe those words coming out of her mouth?
So you were able to put a mute on the dad thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have to. I have to.
To be pro and professional,
and I think that goes both ways too, because when I started like really writing my own stuff, I think I was like 17, 18 or whatever. And I was like, I would be so weird about like coming to him with ideas. I would like say this, and I was like, I don't want to say that to my dad.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Well, yeah, I have,
but I like had to get over it, because it was like, I'm either gonna make it or I'm not. Right. So
I have a daughter about your age. She'll be 20 years old this summer, so she's a year or two younger than you. But you know, she doesn't really share her thoughts with Dad. I mean, it's you know, we have a good relationship, but what she's thinking, her deep thoughts, boyfriends and things. I'm not the first person that
you're probably the last person.
Yeah, she still hasn't told me about things that go on. And, you know, so for you to actually work with her, Richie, on these intimate lyrics and these personal lyrics, I mean,
it was cool. It's but I do. I think I have the ability to remove myself and just really focus on making it great.
Yeah.
And
good for you,
I have to look at it that way, because I can't get too emotionally caught up in that kind of trip.
Yeah, could divert the whole process.
It really could. And I know even like she was just saying, a couple of years ago, she was a little reluctant to share some things, and my thing was always, well, if you aren't forthcoming with this stuff, how are we going to get there? How are you going to get there? How are we going to get to the end zone? And that's my whole thing, is how are we going to get to not how we're going to, but we're getting there. Yeah. Somehow we're going to get to the end zone and finish this track or record or whatever. So I have to take that stance of no matter how personal the thing she's singing, and I go, I know it's a song.
Right.
Let's hear a little of it. You guys are going to play a couple tracks live, but let's play a little from the album itself. The album again is called Silhouettes. It just came out January 29th. It's available on all streaming sites. It's got lots of great reviews are out. Check out Olivia's website, oliviarubini.com. You can also find her on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and links to everything. But this was one of the more fun songs on the album, I thought. It's certainly a fun title. It's the second song on the album, Never Call Me But Call Me, which is such a, don't ever call me. But I really want to hear from you. Yeah. So let's just tell her, you got that ready to go from Olivia's album Silhouettes, Never Call Me But Call Me. Really nice. Where'd you record it?
We do all of our work at Studio 825 in Wilmington.
All right.
Yeah, it's my main place that I work. Well, it's the only place I work out of now. So I'm the only guy that works out of it. So.
The thing that strikes me about that, it's a great song, but your voice, Olivia. I mean, did you know from a young age that you wanted to sing? Because man, your voice is fantastic.
Thank you.
Nice
so much.
identity.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I think it was always floating around that I could sing. I mean, I was a little kid and I was singing the national anthem, and my family members would record me and Olivia Rubini singing the national anthem.
Did you do musical theater in high school or anything like that?
Oh, I did.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I did choir, and I did a cappella group, a madrigals group that's Renaissance music.
Yeah.
I did plays and the theater and all that type of stuff. I did it all. But it wasn't really a thing of I want to make a career potentially until I think I was a sophomore in high school. And I think it was because we had an assignment to do a cover song and actually record it and present it in some way. So we kind of decided to do 4 or 5 Seconds by Rihanna and Kanye West and Paul McCartney.
Right, yeah.
And everyone else was kind of doing these like rinky dinky like iPhone recordings. And I was like, well, I have him and we have a studio at home. So let's do it. And then
Killer version.
Yeah. Did you get an A?
I did. I most definitely got an A.
Pretty cool class.
We can do that.
Yeah.
So, and then
did you blow the rest of the teacher and the other students away when they heard this? I mean, were they like, wow?
I mean,
yeah.
I don't think anyone thought that, like, I didn't need to make it like that. I didn't need to take it that far, but I thought.
But it's part of your DNA,
not?
though.
I know, I'm an overachiever. Yeah. Just had to.
But again, it's part of the DNA. I mean,
right.
you're Richie's daughter, and it just totally makes sense, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
and even kind of before that, I think that was like a secret catalyst because I was like, see, I can record things in the studio and like I got it together. But I was like, I had asked him and I was like, could you please like produce me? I think that would be great. I think we should. But like I was please. And he was reluctant because obviously horrible industry. You're putting your 15-year-old daughter into some craziness.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
He was, you know.
David, you understand.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone that's like super sane would be like,
"Yep, yeah," because you will get your heart broken no matter what, even as great as you are. Right. Anything's going home. It's like, you know, the industry.
It's rough.
It's rough.
What was your reaction, Rich, when she said, "Hey, you know, this is something I might want to do, you know, possibly for best case scenario for a career, for a life. I want to make music. I want you to produce me." I mean, on the one hand, you're thrilled because your daughter shares your passion. On the other hand, you know, as you and Dave were just saying, it's a tough business.
Yeah, I mean, there's as you know, David, there's disappointments at every corner in this industry.
Even when you have the absolute incredible success, there's always, you know, the expectations that you put on yourself, and then there's that whole thing that happens later on that if you know, making records and the other people that are kind of helping to control your career, telling you what they want to get done. Look, it's inevitable. He knows there's going to be some things.
They always say musicians experience more disappointments in one day than an artist. In one day than most people in their whole life. You know, bankers and people like that. Musicians and artists, poets, and whatever, you're getting cut down all the time, and we somehow have this. We need to keep creating. Yeah, well, because that's what we do. But amid the disappointments and you know, so there's always doubt, but you know, you just kind of trudge.
But she was lucky because Olivia, you had the benefit of her experience.
That's why I was a little. That's why I was a little. Oh, geez, and sometimes I still grapple with that a little bit, you know.
But I think he also knows how I am as a person, and I'm pretty mentally tough, and I've never, even when I was younger, I never really let rejection or disappointment kind of get me down. Like like he said, like the need to just be creative and put stuff out there is always kind of overcome any sort of rejection. So it's not like that ever was like crushing to me, and like, you know, so I think that kind of made him feel better, maybe, that like.
And then when you, at the end of the day, you hear a record that sounds so relevant and so honest, and it's a really great piece of work, you know. And then, you know, again, I use that word expectations, but I hear it, I'm going, wow, a promoter's going to be banging down your door to put you on tour to get you to do things, you know. And but then again, that opens up, okay, you're on the road, and then my daughter's on the road, you know, and it's rough, you know, like it's that whole thing. But for
those who can't see Richie's face right now, picturing his daughter on the road,
Oh, you know, but I just think, you know, again, the proof is in, like, when you hear it. It's and you know, like before we heard you sound check, and you sound fantastic, and it's natural and it's real. That makes a big difference, you know. That you don't have to go out. You could, you know, it's authentic. Everything's authentic, which I you know, it's good stuff. So, you know, we have the natural fears as parents when it comes to our kids going out to do it, but you're not a kid anymore. Tomorrow you'll be 22, and you've been around Rich, watching what's been happening. So I think, you know,
have you played out of the area at all? I mean, have you done any shows outside the Philadelphia, Delaware area, or not yet?
Not really. I mean, well, the thing is, yeah, I've done a bunch of shows for my university, and that's in Maryland, so that like kind of counts. But not really. But also, since all of the press stuff and trying to do more shows has happened at like the weirdest time
during
possible.
the
so
pandemic,
it's like everything that I've been doing has been on like Instagram Live and on Zoom.
Right.
So, but I'm kind of hoping that this summer and after that I'll be able to kind of branch out a little bit and do in-person shows.
It's gonna blow your mind.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I'm really excited for you.
Thank you.
Because there's nothing like getting in front of an audience and doing
yeah.
it. I don't even know what that's going to look like, Rich, when get out, like really, I mean, I think things are ramping up. I can just tell by just my schedule what's happening.
Yeah.
And when you walk out and you see people, and because you get that instant reaction to what you're doing live, you know, that really, you know, as instant and as social media is today, it's still not the same as getting in front of an audience.
And the funny thing is, and we were talking about this the other day, is I feel like in a really weird way, having to do all these shows virtually has kind of upped my like performance chops a little bit, because obviously when I'm doing shows when I'm like 15, 16, you're like a kid and you're kind of like weird. Your stage presence isn't like awesome out of the park. But I feel like as I've been able to grow as a performer, kind of having to do it on Zoom where you can't connect with people the same way and you have to kind of go the extra mile so that there's a good show through a screen has kind of helped me up my game a little bit. So then I feel like when I go to be in front of real people, it'll just feel so much more natural.
I mean, the three of you are performers, I'm not, but I would imagine one of the things that helps in a live setting is feeding off the audience.
Oh, yeah.
And you obviously don't have that on social media. So in that regard, it'll be easier once you get out and you can feed off the audience a little bit. Hey, I just want to digress for 1 second because you mentioned college. You're at Mount St. Mary's in Maryland, and you're going to graduate in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was blown away when I saw this. You're a double major in political science and international relations.
With a Spanish minor, don't forget about that.
Point being that if the music thing doesn't work out, you're going to be okay. Yeah.
Right.
What's take it out of music. If you don't go into music, what would be your dream job?
Well, I was planning on going to law school.
Wow.
So if this whole business doesn't work out, I'm going to take some time to solely focus on music because I feel like it's the right thing to do at this time.
Yeah.
But who knows, in a couple years, maybe law school will be calling my name. I would really like to go into international politics. That's really what I think is interesting. Domestic really doesn't do it for me, but
you know, it's not that. Cool. I mean, I've had friends that I remember. I have a friend of mine, Michael Page, who for a long time worked with Hall & Oates. He was their tour manager, and probably production manager at times. But I remember he was. It seemed like this is what he did, you know. And then one day he said, "I'm quitting to go to law school." And you know, now, you know, he went on, he became a lawyer. You know, I see him now, he'll show up at a show, but he went on to become a very successful attorney.
Yeah. Entertainment attorney?
No? I think Michael probably did work in entertainment. I think Michael did. I'm pretty sure. But, you know, which really, like, at the time, I thought, how do you do it? Because like studying law to become an attorney, the pressures and everything with that, but you know, amazing. But it blew me away that somebody could do a 180.
Yeah.
You know, but now that you know you mentioned this, it can be done. And if anybody, I think you're going to do it if you want to do it. You know what I mean? Anything you want to do, I think you can do anything you want to do. Yeah. I have that feeling that you know, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I feel like it would be not a waste, but I just think it would kind of be stupid to, you know, stop the momentum on what I have going now. All of this is very opportunistic, timely based. So it's like law school or whatever I choose is always going to be there.
Yeah.
So if it's in 5 years or 7 years.
Hey, I'm not discouraging the music thing. I think that you're here because I think you're great, and Andy thought you were great.
Thank you.
I mean, I think you got it going on, and it's really pretty remarkable that you put out a record like this at 21, you know, that you've done something at this time of your life, you know. It's just like 21, you know, now being 65, I look back and I go, wow, man, that's really young. I mean, you know what I mean? I hope no offense, but it's young. Because I look back and go, what was I doing when I was 21? But it's like pretty wild that you got it going on and put out such a great record.
Thank you.
You know,
I really appreciate that.
Yeah. We said when we had a couple of tracks that were sort of floating around that were songs that were planning on moving forward with doing a record. And I said, when the pandemic hit and she was going to be coming home from school that March when everything kind of blew out of crazy.
A weird blessing because doing songs when I'm on campus, besides all of the distractions that a college campus has, it's just so difficult because there's nothing like being in the studio and working it moves so much faster.
Right.
And having everything take 10 times as long is just ridiculous. So being able to be there a couple times a week or whatever in between classes or however many hours a day was just, we were able to kick it into high gear and just get it done in a way that I wouldn't have been able to do if I was on campus.
There are some good things that have come. I just had an email exchange with Eric Bazillion, who I played for years, and he's putting out a single this week, and we were talking, I just mentioned, like, the year, you could either, watch TV and just Netflix yourself into, like, or you can learn some things. Like you, I kind of, now that we're coming out of it, use the time to be productive and learn some things and try some things. But there are some good things that have come,
I mean, I try to be a pretty optimistic person in general. So I feel like if I look back on this time that was insane, I feel like I'll be able to say, I did something with that time and I was productive. And
had you already planned to do the album before the pandemic started, or how did the pandemic factor into the decision behind the album?
Well, we were, like I said, we were just had a couple, and we were wanting to do it, and I said to Olivia, if you want to do this, if you want to do an album, I'm there 200%.
Wow.
But I need that commitment from you.
Wow.
I said, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, which I love, and it's what I do.
Yeah.
But I don't have a team of people around me, David. It's me.
Yeah.
And I
and
have
me.
a few and me. And I have a few players around that I bring in. But a lot of it is, but I just was like, I need you to tell me that you're in it.
Because you're throwing in.
You're throwing in, exactly. Because, and she said, let's do it. I want to do an album. People have been asking me if I, well, how come I don't have an album? And
then also from the student perspective, I kind of felt like a year and a half ago, I was like, this might kind of be my last opportunity before I have to make a decision of law school or a job or whatever. And I was like, I need to have something that if I decide to do music, I need to have something that's concrete that says, here I am, I'm legit. I'm just not throwing out whatever. And I was like, this might be kind of my last opportunity to kind of just give it my all, to give myself some legitimacy. So there was that sort of pressure that I was putting on myself. So I was like, being there 100% was not, was not a sacrifice for me. I was 100% in it. And
that's great, because a lot of people at your age, and I don't say this as a bad thing, but there are distractions. I mean, totally. at 20, 21 years old, there are things, there's social, there's academics, obviously. There's a lot going on, plus just the general angst that comes with being 20 years old, especially in the modern world. I mean,
with the pandemic thing.
Which is everything going on. Yeah, it's a lot. So for you to be able to commit, as you say, 100% in full force into making this album, I mean, that is definitely impressive.
Thanks.
Does the this is probably a too personal question, but does the person who this album is largely about, do they know? Are they aware of this album?
I don't really talk to this person. So.
Oh wow!
So I don't really care.
Hey, good for you. Yeah, right on.
I don't know. If they do.
Yeah. They do.
Power to them.
Yeah,
if they don't, oh well.
Yeah.
But regardless,
I think
I came out on top with a pretty bomb album.
Yeah.
Oh, you did. Let's hear a little more of it. I really like this song, and maybe you can tell us. Just Around. I like that song a lot. What is there anything interesting behind this song, or?
I just think it's one of those songs where you listen the first time and you're like, oh, that's cool, that's fun, good vibes, and then you listen again and you're like, oh, that's what's going on. And there's a lot of little mini digs that you might not pick up on the first time, and then you kind of listen more and you're like, oh, she's chatting it up, she's saying some things. So I think that's sort of my favorite thing about this song.
Very cool.
All right. Well, we're not going to play the whole song, but let's just give people a little taste of "Just Around" from Olivia Rubini's album Silhouettes.
Took the high road. Told my friends you were too cold. Then my ego kicked right in. I can't protect your little sin. Searching round and round, reaching but not found. Searching for the sun, reaching for no one. I didn't ask for what I found. It seemed like you were just around. No, I didn't ask no for what I found. It seemed like you were just around. Maybe space is what I need.
That's beautiful.
That
Thank
could,
you.
I could hear that. I could hear that on pop radio.
Yeah.
I mean, I could
Thank you.
envision that being on
Yeah.
top 40 radio. I mean, that's it's really.
Thanks so much.
Hey, I want to ask too. Now, this is obviously you're a songwriter and you do originals, but you've also you started out doing covers
I did.
on SoundCloud.
I did.
And one of the songs you covered, I actually listened to it this morning. It's a great version of the Beatles' "Golden Slumbers."
Oh, yeah.
Carry That Weight. And that's pretty. So at 15 years old, you're covering the Beatles. I mean,
Yeah.
Richie, that must have made you
Yes.
ecstatic that your
Yeah,
daughter's
of course.
putting
Yeah.
out a Beatles song.
Yeah.
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 I
She-
mean,
Her
I grew up
influence.
around everything. Like,
Beatles. Yeah.
obviously, the Beatles
Stones.
and
Yeah.
literally every, like,
Beatle family, right?
Zeppelin,
huge
everything.
Beatle
Yeah.
family,
Everything.
Zeppelin
Yeah.
family. Like,
Yeah.
Were you a
But-
fan of the Caulfields, Olivia?
yeah. I mean, I don't.
She doesn't.
Okay, to be fair, it's not like he would go around the house playing their music.
Yeah.
But, you know, the stuff that
No.
I do know, I'm with it.
Yeah.
Whatever. But
Did you go to when they played shows? Did you show up at their? Did you ever go to their gigs?
No, well, she wasn't born.
yeah, I wasn't
Oh.
even around.
She
Oh,
wasn't around
okay.
yet. She-
Oh, yeah. You
But-
know
but-
what? Sometimes I forget. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I came around and I
Oh, okay.
I
There we
ruined
go.
all the fun.
Yeah. Well, no, not
I
hardly.
stopped
The
kidding.
Hardly
Just
lu-
kidding.
The
ruined all
record label ruined all the fun.
Right.
Just
But so you were a
kidding.
Beatle household, so you've been around like
Yeah.
listening, so doing that. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it was cool, like, a pretty cool environment to, like,
I love
be
that.
around, because it was just like music was
Your
just
religion.
normal.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize that people didn't grow up like that until
Yeah.
I was, like, probably too old, because I was like, what, you don't know any of this stuff?
Yeah.
Like, who are you guys? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
are you okay?
Or you don't
Yeah.
go to the studio after school.
Yeah,
when,
like, yeah, he would
she would
literally
do her
take
home.
me
She's
to the
10,
studio.
8, 9, 10 years old doing her homework in the
Yeah.
studio.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like,
I know.
It was
Not
just-
everybody does this.
Yeah.
it was cool stuff that I assumed was just, like, normal cool stuff for
Yeah.
people. Apparently not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up with a lot of cool influences, and not just like old school stuff, but also stuff that, I don't know, like, you turned me on to like Sufjan Stevens and like Sigur Rós and just like
Crazy,
cool
Cool stuff.
Right.
people that
Yeah.
Big Coldplay fan. She's a
Wow.
that, like, I'm glad
Yeah.
I grew up around, because I feel like
Yeah.
it just formed me into
Right.
the artist I am now.
Yeah.
Well, if people want to hear, we don't have it, but if people want to hear it, go on SoundCloud and you can find Olivia's
Oh, yeah.
version of "Golden Slumbers." It's very.
I'm glad you checked that out.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I'm, I'm proud of that. I think that sounds kinda
I
cool.
do my research. Yeah.
Andy's the man. Andy does the say, Dave, did you know this? No, and it's great. It's wonderful.
Well, that you have the experiences, Dave, and so I have to do the research to keep up with it.
When you talk about the Beatles,
you've lived these things.
Yeah, and then when you talk about like I've been fortunate. We'll never meet John, and I never met actually Ringo, but George and Paul, and I spent a day with Paul. And a guitar player I played with has been in his band forever. But so the Beatle thing, and maybe it'll happen. But I remember when I met a Beatle, I like Paul especially. I really felt like I was looking at Jesus Christ. Now I know that sounds pretty bad, but that's what I was like. Oh my God, I'm looking at and he's talking to me, and it was like really. You know what I mean? The Beatles are.
It's like you realize that they exist. It's like, oh my God,
yeah. I mean, Eric Bazillion and I both had that feeling because we were doing the Top of the Pops, and he was the other guest, and all of a sudden you're with a Beatle, and the Beatles are, like how did they come up with? How did they do what they did? And it was the right time, and it was only 7 years of incredible music. You think about it, all that incredible music, 7 years, and you've been fortunate enough to be influenced by your father having that around, and. There's these fears of like, oh, my kid's going to go and do what I did, which I understand. But at the same time, you were privy to this incredible catalog of his, and to learn through that experience, which is very cool, I think.
Yeah. One of the things, Olivia, and I've seen you talk about this in other interviews that is present on the album, you have a lot of real instruments and real musicians playing on it, which I know is something that was important to you. I mean,
yeah, totally. I mean, I don't know. I feel like right now, sort of real music is coming back, and I don't know if you listen to like a Harry Styles, like it's all real stuff. I don't know how much.
I know Harry Styles.
He was fantastic at the Grammys.
I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan.
Me too.
Huge fan. He's a beautiful man,
yes.
And he's like an incredible artist, and he's like got it going on, and he uses like his players are great. He
awesome.
Very tasteful and nicely done. I love it. I'm a big fan.
I took a lot of inspiration from like him, and even if you listen to like Miley Cyrus, she's doing the rock thing, and I feel like that just sort of real thing is coming back. And sure, there's still a space for like beat boop music is what I say, but and that's cool in its own thing. But I just felt like I wanted to make something that was real and had real instruments, and I don't know. I feel like that's
what
just
a novel
timeless.
Idea, right? Real instruments.
Well, we've been
Who knew?
When that went away. I mean, it's an odd though. Like we mentioned one of our sponsors, School of Rock. I see kids; they just love to play the instrument and like hear the instrument and feel the instrument more than anything. So it's really nice, and I just think it's such an addictive thing and such a great thing that thank God it's coming back.
Do you play at all, Olivia, or you just pretty much just sing?
I can play piano, and I played guitar for a little bit, but I apparently decided to have long nails instead of playing
there you
guitar,
go.
So
yeah,
that's where.
But you have the gift of being able
can.
to write and come up with melodies and obviously collaborate.
Yeah,
that is really a gift.
Thank
and
you.
an art in itself,
Who were
it's like playing an instrument to me. I think.
Yeah.
Rich? Who were some of the people that played on the album? I mean, obviously you played yourself.
You played a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of things.
We had Cliff Hillis, who plays with
Yeah.
David in
Yeah.
ITP. He does a killer solo on that Just Around. That's Cliff doing the guitar solo.
Oh,
And
wow.
I said, Cliff, I need an anti-solo. I call them anti-guitar solos. They're not notey, but they're melodic, but within the chords. And he gave me 2 passes, and we did it. But anyway, Cliff Hillis, a guy named Dave Duncan, who I use a lot on sessions down there, guitar player. This kid, Sam Noble's on bass, who's just a monster down there. Insane. And his band was signed to the Black Keys label a couple years ago and stuff like that. But the kid is I call him a kid, but he is a kid. He's a monster. And let's see who else was on the record. I had brought this piano player on the ballad called Last Time. There was this guy that came in on a set.
Tiny Stars.
Oh, and I played a little on that one. Yeah. But this guy Will Winborn, and I was like, he came in on a session. I was like, man, this dude plays beautifully.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to use him one day. So we had the song Last Time, which is this sort of Adele sort of power ballady kind of song. And I had my piano track, and I'm like,
it's just not cutting
it's not going to cut it. It's not going to make it. I'm going to bring this kid in. And the kid just reimagined it and made it so beautifully.
I
and
know
like,
that name from some. I don't know why.
He like tours all around the world with.
Yeah.
Sometimes I got into this network of like a lot of these gospel guys down there in Wilmington, and they've actually toured all over the world with all these huge gospel acts and stuff, and they're monsters.
Yeah.
They're monsters.
Oh, yeah.
They're killer.
Yeah.
So this dude was one, and I was like, I'm going to use this guy, and he played on last time and just killed it.
Yeah, we were in the session. I was sitting on the floor just like listening to him doing it. I was like crying in the middle of the session. I was like, this guy is taking it to a new level.
I'm looking at Olivia. I was like,
we were like, whoa, man.
That's pretty cool when somebody, a
crazy.
musician, can take your own song that you've written and then bring you to tears listening to him play it. That must have
he
been
like totally reimagined it. Was putting these little melodies and
his voicings were beautiful, and I think one thing I wanted to teach Olivia most on this record is the power of collaboration, and you just talked about it. You can be, kind of a one man on an island kind of thing, but people, even if it's the smallest detail, can bring something to a moment and take that moment somewhere else. And it's the power of collaboration and getting people in good people. I always say, if you got the right people in the studio, and you know this, David, the right heads, what do I always say? The right heads in the room. If you got the right heads in the room, the ideas are going to be good.
Yeah.
And it's just gonna
and it's just whether it's sort of, and it's going to flow and it's going to be beautiful.
Right.
So, but power of collaboration all things.
Have you thought, Olivia, what it would be like to have like your own band, to be, Olivia Rubini and the whatever or something? I mean, to someday down the road to just have a band and to be like with the same group of musicians around you? Yeah,
I mean, recently when I've been doing these little shows, even though they've been, from the studio via Instagram Live, I've had the same bass player and guitar player kind of play along, whether there's tracks or not. So that's kind of given me like a better sense of what it feels like to be in the groove with people. And then like once you do multiple shows doing the same songs with the same guys, then you start to like, get into your thing, which is pretty cool. So I'm hoping to kind of expand that a little bit. And when I have the opportunity to do in-person shows, I would really like to have real guys playing with me, because it's just like,
right. Yeah. And then if it's the same guys every night, there's a chemistry that develops, and I mean, Richie and Dave know what it's like to have that chemistry in a band.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would love that.
Yeah.
But I just want to do shows so bad. I got the itch to do shows.
Well, how about some live performance right here, right now? Yeah. I mean, Richie's got the keyboard, and
you need a drink of water or anything? You're good. You're good to go.
I'll take a little sip.
Okay.
Set you up there.
I mean, this is exciting. We haven't since Adam performed from Loca Connie.
I just think
15 months ago.
It's
we have
so
not
great.
had live music in the studio. Yeah, this is great. So
I was excited today to think that like we got through this.
Right, and we're being COVID friendly. We're spread out a little bit. Yeah, we're good. So yes,
we all got vaccinations.
We're vaxxed. You want to go? All right. So this is Be Well. So this was the single off the album.
Cool.
I heard about this, heard about that. I heard about how it never worked out. Can run in your mouth, then it broke down. Played your game, flipped it around. Maybe it's time to be on my own. Maybe time to let you go. Maybe it is time to be on my own. Maybe time to let you go. Ooh, you had me in my bag. Ooh, fall back, I'll be alright. Live and be well, live and love and be well. Live and be well, live and be well. Live and be well, live and love and be well. Live and be well, love and be well. I heard about this, heard about that. By then I knew I figured you out. You made your bed, you left me unread. Baby, time to rest your head. Maybe it is time to be on it is time to be on my own. Maybe time to let you know. You had me in my bag. Fall back, I'm doing fine. Live and be well, live and love and be well. Live and be well, live and be well. Live and be well, live and love and be well. Live and be well, love and be well.
Yeah.
That's
Wow,
great.
that
That's
was
great.
beautiful.
Thank you.
I mean, to just come in the studio and pull it off live like that is
Yeah.
great.
Thank you. That's
Really
a fun
terrific.
song to sing. So.
Right. And that one kind of predates the album, you were
Yeah.
saying, right? I mean, you wrote that a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was a collab between us two and Andrew Price, and he also helped with some of the lyrics on some of the other songs on the album with Little Tiny Stars and Never Call Me But Call Me. So that was the little single, and he's great at helping us out with some like good pop lyrics. So
Awesome.
it's great to have, like you said, good people in the studio, and you make
Yeah.
good songs, and it's
Yeah.
a fun time. So.
Yeah.
And we're also, that song is usually a little bit on the record. It's more up, it's more energetic, but we have decided that in the next couple weeks, next week, we're going to do like an acoustic version. So it's like a guitar, all
Nice.
kind of
Mm.
John Mayer-ish inspired vibe.
Cool.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Just a,
You're in
variation.
you down in Delaware,
Mhm.
right? It's like there's a real it's like a scene of great musicians for years coming out.
it's
of
a
that.
little microcosm.
Really, really
town.
great. Like my good friend Keith Mack from down there from years ago. Like that Newark area had that university, and it just seemed like there was always some cool things.
There was a heavy duty scene there in the 80s. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, there were a lot of cool bands in the Newark
Yeah.
area, and
But still, I produced this record for this guy James Christopher with Chris, and there's his collaborator Chris wrote. I hope I'm going to pronounce it. Rothel, bass player. Do you know Chris by chance?
Yes.
He's terrific. Yeah.
Young kid, Chris.
Yes. Yes.
He went to Sally's when I was in Paddle, and we were in
He's
like the same friend group. I've
See,
like hung
there
out
you-
at his studio like all the time.
He is terrific. That kid, great
He's
player. Awesome. So I did a couple tracks, and he was
James
the collaborator.
Christopher.
Yeah, you know James.
I just
Yeah.
made the connection. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know all these
Yeah, my partner and I, we produced a couple tracks for him,
Oh, that's sick.
with him, and our friend Martin Strabernik in Slovenia, which was
Right.
like, very odd, like.
Okay.
Well, check this out, Richie. We even did because Martin felt like he could get a better vocal performance out of him, so we technology FaceTimed Martin in Slovenia.
that's great.
And he was like, we just work. And here's, Martin in his broken English and James there. And they never met. And I said, just follow, just trust him. I was the guy like cheerleading, trust him. And, but Chris was the bass, and he played
Right.
guitar great. So that was just my point about like.
That is so funny. I know all those
Delaware, the
people.
Delaware scene. And it's, I'll have to say, because when you mentioned Harry Styles,
Yeah.
like when I heard him, I thought you could do, what Harry Styles is doing, like real musicians, but it was like danceable.
Yeah.
But we're from Delaware. I thought, what is it with Delaware? I mean, like all these, and it's always been like that, Aren't you the Caulfield guys from that area?
Yeah, Newark.
And
Yeah.
Cliff is that, and
Cliffy, yes,
it's just,
yeah.
I knew my old friend Ed Shockley. They we're going back like just great musicians
Yeah.
that had
I played a lot
that
with
that are lifers.
Going way back, Tommy Conwell was part of that scene because he went
Exactly,
to school, he went to school
and we
down
just
there,
lost
so-
the MIBs.
my
the-
bass. Yeah, we just lost Jones. Yeah.
Which that guy was just an incredibly great writer, and I was like, it was love going down when the early days of the Hooters. We'd drive down there and we'd play at their university, but there was just a scene.
Stone Balloon.
Stone Balloon,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I played with Tommy in a band right before he split to do the Rumblers.
What band was that? What
Well,
band?
I had a band. We were a band called the Imports. And
Right, that was a great band.
Yeah, the Imports.
Great band.
And then we actually lost. Then we kind of changed our name to Radio Caroline, and that's when Tommy played with us.
Oh, okay.
And Tommy played with us for about 6 months, and then I knew something was kind of changing when I was, because Tommy was living in Newark. I guess he was going to University of Delaware or whatever.
Right.
And, that's where all us guys were hanging out. And I was in his little apartment. He played me Stevie Ray Vaughan. And he was like, man, check out this guy. And I was like, okay. I mean, number one, I was blown away by Stevie. You know, I was like, wow. And Tommy was like doing Stevie. It was like crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, that's where this kid needs to be.
Yeah. But again, like you said, you were all hanging out in the apartment. I mean, these were like you and Import, and then all these great cats just hanging out. Yeah. You know, I'm a bit of a music historian, and I love listening to stories. Like over the years, I've even become friends with different musicians that were actually a part of that thing. Like even the early British and the cats, like Sal Mato, who was on our podcast, that moved from America to go. I think he got the Roxy music gig, but I remember he went to England, and he was just hanging out at a bar, and he was saying like he walked in, and Mick Jagger and Mick Ralphs and all these like legendary musicians hanging out. He goes, that's how I got. That was their social network, you know. Yeah. He goes, and one day I was offered. I ended up going with Roxy Music, but I got he was going to audition for Bad Company. I mean, great gigs, like you know. But you had your scene, you know. Like I think about those scenes, and now she has like the Chris's and your scene, your thing going on. It just, you know, it's very, very, very cool. You know that, that these people. Like when I mentioned Chris, she goes, I know Chris.
I've hung out with him like all the time. We're literally in like the same group of people.
We're producing a record. I'm writing it. We're going to the studio, and he shows up and he said, "Hey, I was listening." Dave, he goes, I was listening to Amore, this record you did in 1983. He goes, man, you really played good. And it was like really kind of funny. Like he bring it up. I said, so, and he goes, and this is what I really adore the kid, because he said, I listened to the whole thing, and he was asking me about little details. Like musicians, like, it's like us listening to certain things.
All right, Dave, you bring up listening to the whole thing, because I wanted to ask Olivia about this. Your generation, I don't mean to generalize, doesn't listen to full albums. It's about single tracks and streams and downloads, downloading individual tracks. But you put a lot of thought into the sequence of this album. Yeah. It even kind of tells a story across the 10 tracks.
And that was an accident.
Oh, it was not a pretty thought out?
Because, we were just, doing the songs and whatever. We didn't really have an idea to, like, tell a story and have a chronological, timeline or anything. And I think when we were putting together the track list, we were kind of thinking about it from what songs flow nicely and what sounds great together, and then
sequence,
and then I like looked back and I would be like listening, trying to make sure that should be the track list order, and I was like, hold up, I just think I put these in chronological order by accident, because then a few people have, when it first came out, they listened and they were like, did you mean to do that? Because you really just went from point A to point B, like, perfectly. And I was like, well, I didn't mean to tell the story like that, but I guess it came out that way.
But it tells the
story. And that's pretty cool, because I wanted it to be a storytelling thing. I mean, I just wanted it to be, like, really authentic. And I feel like that's the appeal of it.
And it feels like it, and that's what I get as a listener. I didn't know that. It was what it.
Well, whether it was an accident or not, I'm glad it worked out, because I'm someone who's still I'm dating myself here big time, but I still like to listen to albums in the order that the artist intended it to be. And every now and then I'll put it on shuffle just to mix it up a little bit, but I still like to listen to, because there is a sequencing is. I mean, Richie, you've been around long, and Dave. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of thought that goes into.
Sure.
It means a lot. It does. I mean, like they would say, like front load the record would be the thing you'd always hear. Front load the record.
Bands have broken up over sequences of albums.
But she knew that she wanted to start with the song Daydream, and then she knew that she wanted to do the end song with Worth My While, which is this big
finale,
epic kind of. Big, huge finale kind of thing. And
I think the reason why I initially wanted to start off with Daydream was because if you look at the artwork, it's very escapist, and it's like you're on a different planets, kind of like, what are you looking at? Is it a picture? Is it a painting? People comment on it all the time. And I was like, Daydream just perfectly goes with what you expect from the album based off the artwork, because it's very, as you would assume, it's very dreamy and kind of just escapey, and that's kind of what the vibe that I wanted to set for the whole thing from the get-go. So it was Daydream at the front and Worth My While at the end, and everything between that, I was like, we'll figure it out when we figure it out.
Yeah.
But
I will say this, you guys, as she was doing tracks, as she was growing, moving 15, 16, 17 years old, I could kind of coerce her into going and doing something my way.
Yeah. Not anymore.
This record was she had her hand in like every
Everything.
aspect of it, know, and I just deferred if she really wanted to say a beat or something or something, not keyboard sounds. She was very specific.
Yeah.
No, we're not there yet. So I couldn't coerce her and say, "Oh, it'll be great. Trust me, it'll be great."
Yeah.
I couldn't get away with that this time around, which was
I
cool
mean,
because she knows what she wants now, and it's not like so, and that's progress and growth.
Yeah.
That's growth. That's what's supposed to happen. That's what I always tell people. It's like you got to do it.
When I was 15, 16, I might have had the ideas, but besides having the confidence to like voice that, I didn't know like the logistics of things and like how it would work. Like I didn't know Pro Tools and how production things worked. So even if I had an idea, I was like, I don't really know how to voice this in a way that makes sense. So I just didn't really. And then if I did it, and then if he was like, no, then I'd be like, okay, I guess you're right. And now whether it's enjoyable for him or not, I'm very, very particular. And I was just not willing to let anything slide, because I feel like when I listen to the stuff from when I was way younger, I can listen back and be like, oh, like that is something that bothers me, and I wish I said something because it bothered me then and it bothers me now. And I'm like, I wish I just said something.
Look, we all have things like that, man.
But I was not willing to have that thing. I was like, there is no way that I'm going to release this having that little ick that bothers me. Like, I want to be able to listen straight through it and be like, I don't have a problem. Who knows, if I listen to it in like 15 years, I might have a problem. But
well, it won't necessarily be a problem, but you'll be at a different place, obviously.
Exactly.
I mean,
it'll just be more growth, more knowledge.
I feel that way about, I'm not a music writer, but I've written stories for the years. I was a long-time writer, and I'll look back at something I wrote when I was 22 years old, and at the time I thought it was the best thing ever. And it's like, really? I wrote that? But, but it's just a different place. It doesn't necessarily mean it was not great, because it is great.
Yeah,
I mean, it's,
totally.
Hey, you guys want to play something else before we get out of here?
Sure, man.
Want to do one more song?
So,
do you want to tell the story about this one?
Oh yeah, this is a good one. So, this one was called Little Tiny Stars, one of my favorites off the album. And, so basically we had the track for like ages, for like a few months, and it took me a while to write any melodies, and then I finally did. And then I could not write any lyrics for the life of me, and everything that I came up with was just absolute hot garbage. And I was like, it's not working, can't work with this. So we brought in the guy that I talked about earlier, Andrew Price, and
but she had like a couple verses,
ideas,
she had some
but
verses,
nothing that was like
killing
it yet.
But
and like
all the melodies, everything, the track was like done,
it was finished, except
but something bothered you,
and it was just not right.
Yeah.
So he texted our group chat, and he was like, we're coming in the studio today, and we're not leaving until we finish this song. And he never does that, where he's like,
we're not leaving.
Strict. He's not like that at all, because we're pretty loosey-goosey with the inspiration and stuff. But he was like, we're not leaving.
It's like a Rick Chertoff moment. I know that.
So I said, I was serious. I said,
he was so serious.
We're not leaving until this is done, because we were kind of like 95% on the record, the whole album. And
it was like, one of the last
and this
ones,
was just kind of floating around, this last little thread that was dangling, it's like we just got that. But I was like,
something's bothering you, and you got to get to the solution, and we're not leaving till we get there.
We're not leaving.
Yeah, we walk out and we're happy.
Andrew came in, and
we came in ready to work.
He said, let's go. He knew I was serious.
I know he knew you were serious.
He knew I had put my foot down.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how many hours did it take to get it?
It was about an
wasn't
hour.
even that-
Yeah,
just
about an hour.
good.
Right.
Yeah.
It was like once you finally
Back against the
put
wall and
your
you
mind
understand
to
we got to
it.
do it, you do it.
Yeah.
And it's I always say, like, what I always tell you, if you show up and do the work, if you just show up, the things they'll come to you. And again, what do I say? It's the heads in the room.
Yeah.
If you got the right heads in the room,
Right.
it'll happen, man. But you got to be open to it. But you got to show up and be ready to work.
I buy that 100%. Because I've had sessions where, especially with ITP, like my experience, because like, well, you got nothing. I said, trust me, it's going to work out. And most times, 99.9
Right.
works out.
Yeah.
I get it.
But you got good heads in the room.
Yeah, right. I like that. It's very good.
Good bodies in the room.
Right,
You know,
right.
So.
All right, so let's hear a live performance of Little Tiny Stars.
I did it again. Never turns out how I planned. Sun always shines where I land. Eyes look like whiskey on ice. Golden like stars in my sky. Hurts when you close them at night. The little tiny stars, the little stars, bring me where you are. Let's go for coffee at 3. As long as just you and me, just how it always should be. Forgot you only drink tea. That never mattered to me. I took time and chose carefully. The little tiny stars, the little stars, bring me where you are. The little tiny stars, the little stars, bring me where you are. Ooh.
powerful.
Thank
Really
you.
powerful.
Very
really
nice.
Beautiful.
That's it really.
Wow.
Yes. The emotion.
Wow.
I mean, it grabs you. Even if
Thank
you don't know
you.
exactly what the song's about, it definitely grabs you.
What
Thank
a voice.
you.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah. It's
Thank
Really
you. I
beautiful.
appreciate that.
very, very moving.
Really great.
Well, this
Wow.
was Dave. This was great. All right, for anyone else who's listening, we can bring guests back into the studio safely. We did it. We spread out. So let this be the first of many future back to in-studio performance.
lovely.
This was so awesome to have you guys
Thank
here.
you.
I mean, it would have been nice to talk to you over the phone, but this was 100% better. I mean,
So
just
cool.
to do it.
Way better.
Thank you,
to
guys.
do it
Really
in
appreciate you taking the
person.
drives too.
Oh,
Very
totally.
good. Very good.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you
so,
for having us.
Check out Olivia's new album. Again, it's called Silhouettes. It's a 10-track album. You can find it all over every streaming site. And go on her website, oliviarubini.com, and it'll give you everything she's up to. There's some great little bio information about her if you didn't get it all from our episode here. And then you can follow her on all the major. You're pretty active on social media, too. I see that.
Pretty
too.
active.
Yeah. Which you have to be in this day and age. Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
and I'm getting my TikTok kicking too. So
Oh,
follow
there
me
you
on
go.
TikTok.
There you go. Well, I don't get. I mean,
there's something
like-
that Dave and I don't get. Is
yeah,
TikTok.
but
Really.
you know,
Just
I have a
putting it out
TikTok,
there.
and
Do you? Okay.
yeah, but I'm still like, you know, I'm surprised. I've been with LinkedIn forever,
Oh, yeah.
ever. But I, you know, like I looked, I said, oh, I got a profile, and then like I have friends now that are doing that. I was going, I should do that too, but I don't know. It's like how many
It
hours?
gets to
a
be a
day?
lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, it does. You know, it's like, hey, you know, one quick thing. And I know we're running out of time, but you never went the voice or the that route, you know, because you probably could have been chosen to be one of those people. But it really is
Well,
like how that it's like.
I get
modern day
emails.
A&R.
I get emails.
I auditioned once.
Oh, did you?
Didn't make it.
For which show?
Which see, like that's.
For The Voice.
For The
Could you
Voice?
imagine Bob Dylan would have auditioned and they would have turned him down? You know what I mean? It's like,
But I mean,
it-
also I was way younger.
yeah, they don't know
know.
shit.
Yeah.
You know, so what are you gonna do?
Preach.
Well, you definitely have a voice. Even
What
if,
a voice,
Even if you
yeah.
weren't on The Voice,
Voice.
you have a voice. And,
Thank you.
We're
Terrific
very
one.
blessed to have heard it over the
Yeah,
last
yeah.
hour. So
You got anything you want to promote, Rich? You got anything?
Me.
Yeah, well, she's doing a video and
Yeah.
all stuff. Yeah, I'm actually going to be putting out. I do like a lot of like instrumental space music kind of.
Sweet.
I've always been into
so
all that sort of
cool.
ambient stuff and all that. And I'm actually just been finalizing all my mixes, and I'm going to put out this thing. And the name of the project is, and it's just me doing all kinds
Cool.
of stuff. It's called The Age of Flight,
Right on.
and it's just real spacey,
Cool.
kind of trippy,
Love it.
trippy
do you have,
music.
Sweet.
Rich? Do you have your own website or?
I don't.
Okay. Well, you got to learn some social media tips from your
Right.
daughter here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get him on it.
Right.
I do. But yeah, so I'm actually pretty excited. And actually, Olivia, I was in studio, a friend of ours from LA is in town last week, and we had a little meeting and the studio, and I was playing them some of the stuff.
He had kept it a secret from
and
me.
And she was like, "What is?"
Yeah, I was like,
this
when
is-
did you do all of this?
This is awesome. I said, you know.
It's
Cool.
super sick.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we can.
All right.
We'll be looking forward to that, and feel free to let us know, and Dave and I can promote it on the
Oh,
show.
right on,
here.
right on.
So,
Thanks,
yeah,
man.
We'll do. We'll
Appreciate
do.
it.
Thanks again
It's fun.
to this was great, so much fun. Thanks again to Olivia and
Thank
Richie
you.
Rubini for being here, and thanks
There
to
you go.
Taylor for setting up the making sure everything sounded all right in Wildfire Radio. Thanks to CrokerPercussion.com and School of Rock Main Line. For Dave, I'm Andy, and we'll see you next time on In the Pocket.
Sweet.